If you feel like you're down and out for the count, you're in a losing season, negative shit just keeps getting attracted to you. You keep eating shit sandwiches. Just know, my friend, that something great is on the other side. Good morning, brother. Welcome to another morning motivation. Today, I want to start off with a story that was close to my heart and something that really changed my mind as it pertains to when negative things happen to you. You know, when something happens in the world, some sort of circumstance or a problem pops into your life, and how to go about dealing with that. You know, because sometimes when things pop into your life that are unexpected, you tend to take a turn towards a negative perspective, right? You tend to take a turn towards a negative mentality, and that could really affect your mood, that could really affect your motivation levels, and that can ultimately change the way that you approach your life. So I want to tell you a little story about a Chinese farmer. So one day, a Chinese farmer came home, and his son was like, "Dad, some bad news just happened. The horse got out last night." And they worked on a farm, right? So they obviously needed the horse in order for them to do their work, to pull their farm equipment. So all the villagers surrounded the farmer's farm, and they said, "Oh man, what misfortune. Your horse got out last night. What terrible news that is." And the farmer looks up at his son, and then he looks over at the villagers, and he just shrugs his shoulders and says, "Maybe." The next day, when dawn breaks and the sun rises, a horse comes back, his horse, with 6 other wild horses. And he leads them all into the stable, to the farmer's farm. And the son was very ecstatic about this, you know, when he goes and he shows his dad. And the villagers swarm around the farm again, and they say, "Oh man, what great fortune you have. Look at that. That horse brought back 6 other horses to work on your farm. You didn't even have to capture them yourself." And they look at the farmer, and the farmer just looks back and forth at his son, and then he looks back at the villagers, and he shrugs his shoulders and says, "Maybe." The next day, the son tries starting to tame the stallions, right? The wild horses that their horse brought in. And while he tried taming one of the stallions, he got bucked off, and he ended up breaking his leg. And the villagers are creating a commotion at this point. They're going around, "Oh man, what terrible misfortune. Your son just broke his leg. He helps you out on the farm. What terrible misfortune you have." And the farmer looks back and forth at his son and the villagers again, and he shrugs his shoulders and he says, "Maybe." The very next day, the conscription officers come to draft young men into the army. So they approach the village, and they're taking all the young men. They pass past the farmer's farm, and they see that his son has a broken leg. So they pass him up, and they continue on their way. The villagers come up and say, "Oh man, what great fortune you have. The conscription officers didn't take your son into the army. He could have died. What great fortune you have." And the farmer looks at them back and forth and shrugs his shoulders and says, "Maybe." So what's the moral of this story? You have no idea when things happen to you how they're going to pan out in your life. You have no idea what's going to happen after a perceived negative happens to you. You know, it's easy to think that you just have misfortune in life. It's easy to think that just negative things happen to you, but that is not the case. We live in a world of reciprocated opposites. You know, have you ever seen the yin and yang symbol in Chinese Taoism? That's exactly what I mean. There is always a good and always a bad that have to come within unity. Even Christianity says the devil and God, right? 2 polar opposing opposites. There always has to be an opposite, you know? And what the hell is that one physics thing? Every reaction yields an equal and opposite reaction. There is always an opposite. So if you think that you're experiencing something bad right now, just know, my friend, that something good is heading your way. And it can be hard. It can be really hard to accept that something good is going to come your way. But one thing I know for certain is that when a negative thing happens to you, if you possess yourself with negative energy, if you get overwhelmed with negativity, if you get very pessimistic, very nihilistic, and you think to yourself, "This is just terrible. I just have bad fucking luck." Well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to create it. You're going to create bad luck. The lens that you see life now is going to be pre-filtered. You're going to look for things now that are unfortunate. You're going to look for things that are negative to justify your own self-opinion of yourself. To say, bad things happen to me. So you search for bad things that happen to you, and it gives you a sense of relief because your opinion of yourself was right, and then you get stuck in a cycle. This also happens with quantum physics, right? Like you put something out into the world and the law of attraction responds to it. So if you're putting out negative shit, well, then you're going to collect something negative, right? You got to use the right bait for the right fish. So if you want positive things to come into your life, you need to possess a positive mentality or a neutral mentality or an observational mentality. And this is where a lot of Eastern practice and philosophy sits. And it just says, hey, I'm going to observe. I'm going to be the observer of what happens. Because for you to deem something right or wrong, good or bad, would assume that you know the future. You are making the assumption that you know the future. And you don't. Because what if that bad thing that happened to you was to force something out of your life that no longer belongs there? It no longer belongs there. You need to have the death of things in your life as well. And I'm not talking about a person. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about like from a trait standpoint. Maybe things that you do in your life. Like maybe you need to have a death of a job. Maybe you need to get out of the job that you're currently in order for you to pursue the next thing in life, in order for you to level up in life. Maybe you need to get out of relationships with people. Maybe the relationship itself needs to die because the toxic relationship that you're in is bringing you down and it's not allowing you either of you to grow anymore. Maybe, just maybe, the bad things that happen to you are actually blessings in disguise. It's very hard to see, which is why you need to learn to take the neutral mentality, which is be the observer, be rational, scale out for a moment, give yourself a bird's eye view. You know, just like the farmer, when things were happening to him, he's like, I don't know, maybe this is good, maybe this is bad. Who am I to tell you that? Who am I to tell you that? So my friend, if you experience a negative perspective in life, if you experience something where you feel like the only thing that's happening to you is bad things, you need to remove your labels. You need to remove your judgments, because labels and judgments are side effects of an insecure ego. You're identifying things in the world that you think are bad, even though they may not be, even though they may be the best thing for you. Look, I have dealt with this so many times in my life, you know, where I have been down and out for the count. You know, it's like, maybe not giving you specific examples, but I just want you to think about how it pertains to even your entire life, right? Anything that happened in your life specifically, where you felt like you're on the top of the roller coaster and you're just heading down, the whole time you're screaming. The whole time you're yelling. The whole time you're like, oh my God, this is terrifying. What's going to happen? And just as you hit the bottom, you hit that loop that brings you right back up. And hitting the bottom can be a scary thing because you anticipate the impact. You anticipate the fall. Or think about it even as you're sinking in an ocean. It's scary because you can't see the bottom, but once you hit the bottom, it becomes less intimidating because now the only place to go is up, right? It's no longer uncertain anymore. You've already hit the bottom. So don't be scared when negative things happen in your life. Don't be scared when you bottom out. Don't be scared when you hit that point to where you're just like, I don't know if I can keep going. Because at the end of it, you'll be surprised the positivity that comes out of it. I just want you to take a moment and reflect back in your life and think about all the negatives that have happened to you. And I want you to think about it. You're still alive today, and you've learned a valuable lesson from those negatives. So listen, my friend, if you feel like you're down and out for the count, you're in a losing season, negative shit just keeps getting attracted to you, you keep eating shit sandwiches, just know, my friend, that something great is on the other side. All right, brother, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.